on. So, Peter, tell me your favorite story in about 90 seconds of the Abbey.
Great story. I had a friend call me one day from a coffee shop saying, "Hey, I just met this guy. He's from England. He doesn't have a place to stay. Can he stay with you?" And I thought, I have so many questions. So he wound up here, and he had seen a YouTube clip of ORU and wanted to come to Tulsa to find God. And met this mutual friend. Just ran into her at a coffee shop. He'd run out of money and was looking for a place to stay. And so, but he had all these really basic questions about God. And we just happened to have a men's discipleship group that was here that same day. And they kind of wrapped him in, and he gave his life to God. And they kind of welcomed him in. And a couple of those guys continued to be in touch with him as he went back to England. And it was just the most random story of coincidence and, well, really the Holy Spirit.
Yeah.
Of putting people together. So it was just really perfect and just kind of like, wow, that's awesome.
There we go.
Well, this is Peter White. He owns the Abbey of the Heights. Now, Peter and I have been friends for a long time, and it's been fun to see just the way that his life and his ministry and just his passion has really lined up. That in the center of Tulsa, just right near downtown, is this oasis called the Abbey of the Heights. And so our interview is on location there, and you're going to hear this conversation with Peter White about what it means to take some time for space, why we need space in a busy world, and how the Abbey of the Heights is making a difference here in Tulsa. You're going to love this conversation with Peter White.
So tell people, I've been here before and I've kind of know a little bit of the story, but so tell us what is kind of where we are and what is the Abbey and what is the Sabbath Life?
What is the Sabbath life? I can remember being a student in seminary and just in walking past people on the sidewalk or in the hallway and asking, "Hey, how are you doing?" And just the default thing that popped out of your mouth was, "I am so busy." And if you stopped at all to have, dig into that conversation at all, it then turned into, well, I'm taking this many classes. I got this part-time job. I'm doing this at the church. I've got these extracurricular activities, as if it was like some kind of competition of like who was doing the most things.
Yeah.
As if like we're really important based on how busy we are and they're busier than the next person. And there came a certain point where I thought, this is kind of weird. Why do I do this? Why are we doing this? Especially if we want to be like future spiritual leaders of other people. Why do we make so much of being busy?
Yeah.
And that kind of caught my attention. And it was later on that it was actually a spiritual director put in my hand Eugene Peterson's book, The Contemplative Pastor.
Okay.
Where he has one of the first chapters in that book is the unbusy pastor, where he just kind of unpacks this vision of like being busy is a choice. Like, and we don't have to be busy, and it's not cool to be busy, particularly as people of God.
Yeah.
We can be friends of time, and so kind of like trying to figure out what Sabbath means became a way of like getting into why do I relate to time the way that I do, and my schedule and my to-do list and the yeses in my calendar. Why do I jam pack all of that full?
So you used a phrase I don't remember hearing. Maybe I've heard friends of time.
Yeah.
And most of the time I do. I mean, when you said that, it made me think, yeah, time is an enemy, right? There's such a scarcity of time.
Yes.
And yet Sabbath invites us to something
right.
different.
What if in the creation story, like time is one of the characters that God has made an abundance of? And really when you get to the seventh day and the creation of Sabbath, this is the only thing in all of the creation story that's called holy. Like everything is called good, and then the humanity is called very good, but then this creation of the seventh day is called holy, and it's a win. It's not a what. It's not a new thing that God has made, but it's a holding of time.
Okay. Yeah.
That I think is something really, really deep to us of how we're hardwired as people, and that we're not, in all the ways that we talk about time, we always talk about it as like it's an antagonist or an enemy.
Yeah.
I've got to manage it. I got to, And so what would it be like to come to the end of my workday, like at 5 o'clock and pencils down, I got to go home and shut things down. But I'm thinking, oh, if I could just had 2 or 3 more hours, I could have gotten everything done today.
Yeah.
But what if we come to the end of our days and saying, yeah, I did everything I was supposed to do, and I did enough.
Yeah, I did
And now I
enough.
can, and now I can live my life.
Okay. So the Sabbath life in the Abbey is kind of a response to kind of redeeming this kind of friend of time.
Yes.
This rhythm that God has situated in the world, and we've sort of taken away.
Yeah. Yeah. Because we want to make ourselves so busy.
Yeah.
And we feel valued by our busyness.
Mm.
Which I don't think is how God has wired us to be.
No. So so tell us what goes on. What goes on here?
Yeah. So this is the Abbey of the Heights, because we're in the Heights neighborhood, just on the edge of downtown Tulsa. An abbey, from the old medieval idea from monasteries, that an abbey was a place of prayer.
Okay.
And so we are a place of prayer right in the middle of this neighborhood of Tulsa, and a place of respite and peace for weary souls.
Yeah.
People that are tired.
Yeah.
People that are tired of being busy. So we have 4 bedrooms upstairs that individuals can use for retreat, for the day, to just spend alone with God, or overnight for as long as they might want to do that. We've had people come from as far away as Pennsylvania and Oregon. I had one guy who, when I was showing him around, he was from the Philadelphia area, and he confessed, well, I'm a really big Bob Dylan fan, and I saw you had a Bob Dylan museum in Tulsa. And I was like, well, you're in luck. It's within walking distance. But he had come here for a week as part of his ministry leave.
Okay.
And to take care of himself. So we're a place of soul care and retreat. And groups come and utilize the first floor space, whether it's like a nonprofit board or a ministry team or a Sunday school class or women's or men's ministry. All kinds of different groups have utilized our first floor space.
Okay.
It was kind of this idea. I was inspired by the Abbey of Gethsemane, which is a monastery in Kentucky, and found that to be just a really peaceful place that really restored my soul in a season of my spiritual journey, where I was kind of like grasping at anything and why doesn't any of this work for me?
Yeah.
But found at Gethsemane just this place of, or really it was like oxygen to my soul.
Okay. Yeah.
And so wanting to carve out a space like that for people.
Okay. Now use a word like, and I mean this contemplative. So for people who don't know the word contemplative, how would you describe that word as an idea of space and time?
Yeah. Well, think about the words hurry, noise, and crowds.
Okay.
How does that feel for you when you hear those words?
Yeah, I'm a little bit stressed already.
Yeah. So if you flip that upside down, what's the complete opposite of hurry, noise, and crowds? I think of things like silence and solitude.
Yeah.
Stillness.
Yeah. So that's what, and again, it seems sort of strange to me. I mean, because again, we're outside, we see cars going by.
Yeah.
There's a highway that's just right on the other side. I mean, downtown, the rush of everything that is there.
Yeah.
And yet in this space, because I've stayed here a couple of times, like it does feel like I am at it feels like I'm away from the city, even though I'm like smack dab in the city. So how did that work?
Yeah, there can be this assumption that I can only experience God when I make all the things get quiet. I don't think that's necessarily the case.
Okay.
Because God is already with us. And if we can't experience God in the things happening and in our life, how are we going to experience God in the place where they're quiet?
Okay.
And, God is in all of our spaces. And it's growing our own awareness to ourselves and of God in those spaces.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Well, and that makes sense. We just wrapped up a series kind of on like the wilderness. We're about to wrap it up. And the wandering through the wilderness. And this idea of like the tabernacle, like, we need to have these anchoring points no matter where we are.
Yeah.
That call us back, right? And that we can find no matter where we are on our journey, like, I'm anchored.
Yeah.
And it's right there.
Yeah.
It's wherever we need it to be. So,
Yeah, and we see throughout the biblical story, like, God coming to people wherever they are. So Moses in the burning bush is Moses in the middle of his workday doing this stuff, and God interrupts him.
Yeah.
And Jesus with the fishermen, they're in the middle of their jobs, and he just comes to them where they're at.
Yeah.
God has a way of coming to us in just our normal, ordinary stuff.
Yeah.
Our life.
And so this isn't an ordinary house, though. So tell us a little bit about kind of the history of the place that we are, because I know there's a.
Yeah. Okay. So this is a deep rabbit hole.
Oh, that's fine.
Yeah.
I like rabbit holes.
Both can be towards. So so this house was built in 1914.
Okay.
It's on the historic registry. We're in one of Tulsa's oldest neighborhoods that popped up in probably 1905, 1906 is the first house in our neighborhood, and most of the houses came, within the next 10 or 15 years.
Yeah.
And the neighborhood has just seen a lot of change in the 110 years.
As you would expect, a neighborhood after 100 years.
Yeah, that's on the edge of a downtown, kind of the ebb and flow of, economy and the people that come and go with that.
Okay. Yep.
So I'm sure these floors and walls could tell a lot of stories.
I'm sure.
Yeah. But we were featured in a movie a couple of years ago.
Okay.
A film shot here that Lily Gladstone was in and starred in, and so that was kind of a fun gig.
Yeah. Well, and the Heights. I mean, obviously the Heights has kind of taken on. I mean, a name change. That was what? How long have you all been here?
So the Abbey of the Heights has been here for 4 years.
Okay.
The ministry has been here. Yeah.
And when did the Heights take on its? Because it used to be Brady Heights.
Yeah, it was Brady Heights. So that was probably about 5 years ago.
Okay.
That name change happened. It was during the pandemic that the neighborhood kind of took on that task.
And you all live in the neighborhood, and you all have lived here for
8 years now.
Has there? I mean, and this is a rabbit hole, but has there been any change in the neighborhood since it changed its name? Has that? I mean, sometimes names are names, and sometimes names are like symbols for something way bigger. So have you noticed any changes? And obviously there's a pandemic that we went through, and, all sorts of other political unrest and all sorts of other things that have gone on. So maybe there hasn't been anything, but I'm just curious.
Yeah, that's a really great question. I mean, no doubt there's been changes over the last 5 years, but as you said, there's been a lot of change in the world in 5 years as people move around and values change and shift.
Yeah.
And who we make time for in our lives.
Okay.
It is a uniquely diverse neighborhood for the city.
Yeah.
And I think it continues to be so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Like I said, I was just kind of not really what I was expecting to ask about, but, obviously Tulsa, as you mentioned, over 100 years in neighborhood, the up and downs, the ebbs and flows, the major historical events that have happened in Tulsa, and just how those linger, right?
Yeah.
And then how new things sprout up. And there's a quote by Andy Crouch I think about that: the only way to change culture is to create new culture. And so I think about, okay, what's a new culture that is being created, right? That comes up while these other things kind of come down.
Yeah. I think that's something that is probably still bubbling just underneath the surface right now.
Yeah. All right, let me take us back to, so people come to the Abbey, do an overnight retreat, multiple night retreat.
Yeah.
You can do it yourself. You can do it like couples. Some teams will take overnight retreats and they'll be here for a few nights.
Yeah.
And then other people come for a day. And that's just sort of that rhythm. What have you found? I know there's somebody who comes every once a month on a Friday or that kind of thing. What are some of the people who use the Abbey? What have you noticed over time with them?
Well, I like to tell people that we're here to help helpers.
Okay.
So that might be people in ministry, that might be people in education or healthcare or work in mental health.
Yeah.
Really any kind of occupation or job that requires you to be with people, that can be something really joy-filling and delightful, or it can be something really draining too.
Yeah. Okay.
And I think all of those professions and all those jobs, like, they should be delightful.
Yeah. Yeah.
They don't have to be draining.
Mm.
And so, but part of that is like being able to recognize your own boundaries,
Okay.
and your own sense of self and awareness.
Yeah.
And knowing that how much time away do you need?
Okay.
Kind of like fill yourself back up again.
Yeah. Yeah.
Kind of put that oxygen mask on for yourself and restore yourself so that you can be fully present and awake when you're with other people
Okay.
to serve them well and in really good ways.
Yeah.
I think I veered off from your question a little bit. So
That's okay. No, I do think this. Yeah. So I guess my question, but I think it is. I mean, what I'm hearing you say is, we need to all find our own rhythm of what it is to be able to put on our own oxygen mask, to care for ourselves, to help the helpers. Yeah. So just help us to, because I'm imagining, we'll, like, if somebody's watching this and maybe they're a person of faith, maybe they're not, but if they're just like, okay, I'm busy and I would love some things. What are some of the different ways that, for people use your services?
Yeah.
For lack of a better word, like, what are those rhythms look like that you've seen be helpful for folks?
Yeah. Yeah. So you mentioned there's a hospice chaplain right now she has bought for herself like 12 retreats at a time, like a day retreat that she can be here from like 8 to 5 during the day. And so, she'll buy 12 of them and she'll tell me, like, put me down for the third Friday of the month and I'll be there. And every time she comes, she's like, so glad today's my Abbey day because all this happened this past week that I wasn't expecting. It's space for me to just breathe.
Yeah.
And she's done that for 3 years now.
Okay.
And I just think that I wish everybody that works for a church or some kind of ministry or nonprofit, like, or some kind of giving work with people, like, had that rhythm for themselves.
Yeah.
And what kind of difference that would make for their work and for the people that they serve.
Yeah. So she just comes once a month, basically. Spends the day, and people can, I mean, again, because y'all have room. So I mean, like, when I've come, it's like I've slept more than I normally do, which is nice. But also, just time to read, to pray, to just, I don't know. There is so much of life to me is the normal pace is more rushed than I want it to be. And so to come to the Abbey is uncomfortably slow in the best possible way, right? It's like, what am I going to do next? I don't need to do anything until I eat dinner, right? Like, there's this afternoon period where it's like, I think I'll take a nap and I don't need to set an alarm, or I'm going to work on this thing, but I'm not going to have to be, I don't know. There's like in a productivity world, right?
Yeah.
This sense of being is such a good.
Yeah. To have a day that you don't have to do anything.
Yeah.
That you don't have to produce something. I think is a real gift for people. Now, I think there are different kinds of retreats that a person might take.
Yep.
And you might want a productive kind of retreat where you've got a project you're working on and just the daily life stuff keeps nipping at you and you can't get it. So you just need some focused, undistracted time to knock out this project.
Yeah.
And we might be a good place for you to do that, to do some focused work.
Okay.
Deep focused work.
Yeah.
On the flip side of that is, like, we are made to be human beings, not human doings.
Okay.
And so we do need that space to be totally quiet and silent, where the phone is turned off, or we're not listening to music, or have the TV on, or we're just still with God.
Yeah.
And experience God in that way, because none of the rest of our life is like that. And so it takes some creative intentionality to do that.
Yeah.
And I think maybe some of us are afraid of what we might find when we do that, which can be some of our resistance.
Yeah, that was going to be one of my questions, was why are we, I mean, and that's, for me, is, I mean, I've always been a person, like, when I was growing up, I'd walk into the room, I'd turn the TV on. I don't do any sort of, like, most of my habits involve noise of some sort, right? I'm a frequent podcast listener. If I'm doing dishes, I have The Office right now. I'm rewatching The Office, so I have my phone and I'm rewatching The Office. And there's like this noise that I am compulsively drawn to, it feels like. Yeah. So what's wrong with me?
Oh, we've fallen into some of these traps of being human.
Yes, yeah.
Well, we've normalized so much productivity, noise. Yeah, so much of our like consuming of pop culture is just to like say we did that, or it's another box to check of like watching the next episode or series or the next thing to talk about that just got released.
Yep.
That maybe we don't really need all those things to really feel like we're experiencing enough in our life. I really love the word enough. In response to like, wow, how much do I need to be doing?
Yeah.
How much do I need to be consuming?
Yeah.
And experiencing.
Yeah. Okay. We'll talk more about this. So let me get back to some of the practical stuff.
Yeah.
So, so practically, I mean, for people to come to the Abbey, it's real simple. I mean, just go online and, they can reserve a day, a half a day, to be here overnight. You have breakfast and, kind of a simple breakfast, simple lunch if people need that. Is that right?
Right. So yeah, I like to kind of like tell people it's somewhere like a cross between a monastery and a bed breakfast.
Okay.
So we do hold this as a really sacred space, and we have some simple rhythms of prayer in the morning and in the evening that people are welcome to join in with. And we have a small community that gathers on Sunday for worship. But then there's just if you need a place to stay, you need a warm bed and a simple breakfast and a simple lunch, then you experience that here.
Okay. So every morning, 8:00?
8:00 for prayer.
Monday through Friday, I guess.
This is Friday. Yeah.
Monday through Friday. So just because you're Anglican, and so there's kind of the daily office prayer, and then same thing at 5:00 at the end of the day. So somebody can come by,
right,
any time, Monday through Friday, except when you're on vacation or whatever,
right,
and just have that rhythm to start the day or end the day.
Yeah, this is again like the Abbey in the medieval times was a place of prayer on the monastery. And we want to be a place of prayer in our neighborhood.
Okay.
And so we have these daily rhythms that neighbors are welcome to join in on. We also have prayer stations. They're just interactive, hands-on ways of like kind of focusing in prayer that are available to people both inside and outside in the gardens.
So tell me about kind of how the prayer stations came to be, and what God did there.
Oh, that's just a way of how God likes having lots of people's fingerprints on things. Where I had a guest who found out about the place from a friend, and that was what she does, is she designs prayer rooms. So she saw this dining room table that we had that was just taking up space and not being used. And she's like, Peter, this needs to be a prayer room. And I was like, all right, Lisa, like, go for it. What do you need? And so she did.
That's awesome.
No.
Wow. Yeah. Well, and again, I think for people who are experienced prayers, it's a gift for them. But for people who aren't as experienced prayers, I don't know. I think that a lot of us have this idea of prayer of like the "Now I lay me down to sleep" or the prayer before the meals, or like this big pastoral prayer of like "beseech thee" and all sorts of other things. And so prayer is really just a way to communicate with God. So So these prayer stations are designed to just kind of invite you into God's presence, right?
Exactly.
And they're accessible. It's not like, oh, you've got to be, a pastor or a theologian. Anybody can kind of.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, these are just real, accessible, I think is a good word.
That's a good word.
Really hands-on and tangible.
Yeah.
Of, kind of thinking outside of the box of what does prayer feel like?
Okay.
And how do you experience God?
Yeah.
Sometimes we need something in our hands to experience God, or we just need that part of our brain running in a certain way so that the rest of us is open to God in another way.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's part of what, like, as I think about the Abbey, it just allows it just shifts how I'm engaging enough that it's like, oh, I just feel like, even when I walked in right before we did the interview, I was like I just felt like a calmness, like, this is a place of peace. And, again, if somebody works at the church and I think about people who, I think what you're doing to help the helpers, so often when we step into, whether it be if we step into a sanctuary, for me, I like to think of a sanctuary as a sanctuary, but also for me as a pastor, I step into a sanctuary and it's a workplace.
Yeah.
And it's not like my safe place, it is my workplace. And so then, like, I'm not like, oh, Lord, what are you doing in this place, right? I'm thinking, oh, Aaron, what do you have to do in this place?
Yeah.
And so for me to be able to have a different kind of place where it's like, okay, your rhythms are going to adjust. You're going to be a little bit different. I think is such a need for, again, whether it be a pastor or a nurse or a teacher or whatever it would be, to do that. Now, you're also a spiritual director.
Right.
For people who don't know what a spiritual director is, how do you define a spiritual director?
Yeah. So from the outside, it might look something kind of like counseling or kind of like coaching in that it's like a one-on-one relationship where you're having a conversation.
Yeah.
But it's unique in the sense that a spiritual director listens with you as you listen to God.
Okay.
So it's really a three-way conversation that's always happening. And a spiritual director, in fact, direction might be kind of a misnomer for some people of like, well, it's kind of like, well, you tell me what to do, like you direct me, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
No, it's like, how is God speaking to you right now, and what are you doing about it, or not doing about it?
Yeah.
How are you letting God love you? And how are you open to God?
Okay.
How are you? The things that you do to feel close to God, are they working for you or not working for you, or are you just doing them out of a sense of routine and because somebody told you to when you were 14 years old?
Yeah. So I do my 5-minute Bible app thing.
Yeah.
And that's what I thought I was supposed to do, but yet it feels empty all this time.
Yeah.
And so, a spiritual director is like, okay, invite you into that conversation.
How do you actually experience God?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So how'd you get in? No, that's a later question. Let me ask this question. So spiritual direction. So if somebody's interested in a spiritual direction, they can contact you.
Yeah, we actually have a training program here through the Sabbath Life, and so we have now trained about 20 folks that do spiritual direction. So we have a whole community of people offering this ministry.
Yeah,
give us this space for people to reflect on their life with God and have safe spaces for that. Yeah.
So and that training program, so they'll come a few times a year, kind of hear, gather, train, but also I'm sure books to read and all sorts of other ways.
Homework.
Lots. So if you want homework, this is But that's the only way to really do it, right? To learn to grow that.
It's a very hands-on program too, where you're practicing meeting with people and then reflecting on that when you come together as a group.
Yeah.
And how are you doing with that? Where are you seeing God at work? And how do you want to approach that differently next time?
Yeah. So you got there's all these different things. It feels like that. So we have, you've got the Abbey, which is the physical place.
Yeah.
And to me, it kind of sets the tone for what you're trying to do, right? This place of peace, this place of in the midst of busyness, still kind of a sanctuary there. And then training these spiritual directors, right? And this community of people who are kind of this contemplative way, sort of thing. And then you have your own spiritual direction practice. Am I missing out on any other and then then kind of your faith community church. I don't know if that's the best word. Would you all call yourself a church or a congregation that meets on Sunday afternoons?
We call it a contemplative community.
Okay.
As you mentioned, I'm an Anglican priest, so it feels kind of like a house church that meets here in the front room. But we do the Anglican liturgy and so the presence of Jesus in the communion liturgy is really what it's all about, and experiencing Jesus in this way together.
Okay.
Yeah, so we have that contemplative community. We have a couple other learning communities that are just kind of accessible points for people to be engaged. Okay. And I found a number of ministry leaders in the area have been attracted to those where they say, I was just looking for a place where I didn't have to be in charge and I could receive.
Yeah.
Or for some other people, they find their questions are not being asked at the church they're at, and so they're really hungry for something that and connecting in this way.
Okay. Okay. So yeah, so there's lots of different ways for people to kind of, because that's one of the things I think is like, you mentioned there's kind of this resistance, where there's a resistance to the deep end of spirituality, is what I sort of, in a gracious way, I'm going to say this in a gracious way. I think about like the Sunday school machine. And Sunday school classes, if you're in a Sunday school class, wonderful. I'm so happy for you. But like the Sunday school class machine is consume education, consume education, consume education. And you get the relationships over time that have been so life-giving, right? But you can stay at a Sunday school class and never go deep.
Yeah.
Right. Now some classes do really go deep, but you can stay there and never go deep. But yet, like in a contemplative community, spiritual direction at the Abbey, it almost like there's a deep endness just naturally as a part of it. The deep end is larger than the shallow end.
Yeah. Yeah. I think Jesus himself was very, very well aware that not everybody was going to sign up for what he wanted. He talks about the narrow path.
Yeah.
And throughout the scripture, some of my very favorite verses that I will use to reference the Abbey, like Jeremiah 6:16, it talks about ask for the ancient paths. But then then the very next line is, but you said no.
Yeah.
Always this resistance, and always has been.
Yeah.
When Jesus says, come to me, all you that are weary and heavy burdened, and I'll give you rest. The very next story is when the Pharisees decide to start the plot to kill Jesus. It's like, that just seems really incongruent. I'm like, we give you rest. No, I think we're going to kill you. And so, there's something to this resistance that we don't want what God is offering us.
Yeah.
There's something just really tantalizing about being busy and being productive and doing stuff and performing our way out of wherever we find ourselves.
So why? I mean, what have you, in your time as a spiritual director and a pastor and all the various things you've done, like, what are some of those key things? I mean, busyness, productivity, performing, those are 3 different things. So what is it about performance?
Yeah.
Who are we who's our audience? Why does that give us value? What are we trying to do?
I think on a fundamental level, we're looking for love. We're looking to be loved by somebody. So I think if we could really wrap our hearts and our minds around the fact that we're loved by God, I think a lot of this would dissipate. If I knew I was loved by God, why would I work so hard?
Yeah.
And that's really lifelong work. Like, it's not just, yes, Jesus said your heart, and then all that goes away.
Yeah.
Like a magic wand gets waved over you. We have these stories that we pick up throughout our life that just kind of hold us tightly. Oh, I've got to do this.
Yeah.
People to like me. I've got to be successful in this way.
Yeah.
People to love me.
Yeah.
We crave that on a really deep level. That unraveling it is this lifelong work.
Which is, it's terrifying in a way, but it is, essential. I remember, again, as a pastor, like I took a sabbatical in 2021. And I remember reading the Bible for the first time in a decade without thinking sermons in mind or a Bible study in mind or a devotional in mind. But that I was just trying to read it, which is such a weird thing for people not in ministry, I guess. But like, that's just,
right.
That'll preach is something that's always in my head. And so I remember reading it, and I remember reading, it was Jesus being baptized, and, he hadn't done anything, hadn't healed anybody or done anything. And I just remember, this is my son whom I'm loved, with whom I'm well pleased. And I remember sitting there in my sabbatical reading that and feeling and sensing, Aaron, that's true for you. And like, that was like week 2 of my, like, what ended up being about 10 weeks. And I just remember that being one of the grounding moments of that sabbatical, right? That it was, for me, it was like, wait, you don't have to produce a sermon out of this. You don't have to do anything. This is just for you, and you're enough. And I just, even though I would have preached it, taught it, said all of those things, I still needed to experience it. And I think there's a difference between like reading it and experiencing it, right? We all need to have these moments of experiencing enough. Yeah, I'm enough. This is enough. Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't really ask you a question there. So let me, so we live, so many of us are caught up in this wheel of production, doing, going. We worked at a church together, and there was an individual whose email signature was go, go, go. I don't know if you remember that. But I just remember thinking like, that's not, I mean, it's good to go. But like, that's not the rhythm of God. It's like go, go, rest, right? That there's this constant rest. And so even for people who are caught up in that, what's like step one? Like if you're just so busy and you don't feel like you have enough time, what's step one?
Yeah. There are, I think, 2 simple rhythms for starting to untangle this like knot of busyness that we get trapped in. And so one is a daily thing and one's a weekly thing.
Okay.
So a daily thing is there's this like traditional historic name for it called the examen. And it's just a really simple prayer for the end of your day, for paying attention to your day.
Okay.
And it can take 5 minutes, 10 minutes. Like it's not a huge thing. It's just to take 5 minutes and look over the events of your day and consider, where did I feel really close to God today? And where did I not feel close to God today? And what do I want to be grateful for today? And how do I want to look for God tomorrow?
Okay. Where did I feel close to God?
Yeah.
Where did I feel far from God?
Yeah.
What am I grateful for?
Yeah.
And then what's thinking ahead?
What am I looking forward to tomorrow?
What am I looking forward to tomorrow?
Yeah. And that's just a simple way of capturing. And you could make that a note on your phone. You just, you jot those really quickly in a journal. It doesn't have to be a complicated thing. It's just taking some time to notice your day and just interrupt the what's next.
Yeah.
I know you're a big fan of The West Wing.
Yeah.
And so every single episode is the president ends with the president saying, what's next? No matter what just happened.
I've forbidden a war over here.
Yeah.
What's next? Yes, yeah.
And that feels like life.
Yes.
To the end of your day. I was like, all right, what's next? But I feel like this daily prayer of the examen is a way of interrupting that habit that we have of what's next. Of like, no, what just happened?
Yeah.
So that's a daily routine to enter, and it sounds simple, but it can be really hard to do, to implement on a regular basis. I confess I'm not perfect at it, but I have an alarm on my phone to like kind of alert me, like, hey, take 20 seconds just to notice your day and what just happened.
Yeah.
And then on a weekly is a Sabbath rhythm and routine. So this comes from Genesis 1, the very first chapter of the Bible, like God's creation story, and Sabbath is a part of that. It's also in Exodus 20 in the 10 Commandments. So like Sabbath isn't just like a neat and trendy spiritual practice that we should do. It's one of the 10 Commandments. I remember having a ministry colleague, talking to him. He told me that he told his elder board that he was really bad at Sabbath. And they responded with, oh, it's not really a big deal. Like, none of us are. And he thought, if I had told you I had a problem with murder, like, you would have called the police.
That's right.
Like,
Yeah.
It's in the 10 Commandments. They're together. And it shouldn't be a legalistic thing that we, fall lockstep into. But because it's a gift from God. If you can imagine what it was like for these people at Mount Sinai who had only known making bricks their entire life, because that was the only life their dad knew, because that was the only life their grandfather knew, was making bricks.
Yeah.
Every single day. There was no weekend. There were no 7 days to the week. It was every day was what we did yesterday.
Yeah.
No paid time off, no vacation. It's making bricks. So to hear the God of the universe say, you do Sabbath 1 day out of every 7.
Yeah.
What kind of a gift would that have been
Yeah.
And it was to the whole community all at once, the rich and poor alike. Everybody is invited to Sabbath.
Yeah.
Not just those that have the means for it.
Yeah. Yeah.
We live in a complicated world today where we probably need to nuance that and try to figure out how that works for us. Because I've talked to people that work in healthcare that have these like crazy schedules. They're on this many days and off that many days, or other people that have to work 3-4 jobs just to make ends meet.
Yeah.
I think God's desire is that everybody experiences Sabbath, not just a few. Because we're not defined by our work.
Yeah.
What we do is not the most important thing about us, which I think is one of the lies that we just like get so caught up in.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and yeah, so it seems like the first, how are you? I'm busy. What do you do? That's one of our standard first questions that we ask people.
Yeah.
And then,
I am my job.
I am my job.
Yeah.
And so the Sabbath reminds us we are what we do.
Yeah. You are not your job.
You are not your job. Yeah.
Yeah. You are valuable because you're made in the image of the Almighty God.
Yeah.
Your value is not how many bricks did you make this week.
And it's interesting because one of the things that I just see, and I'm tempted to, right, is to work more than my employee contract says I should.
Uh-huh.
I mean, I remember preaching a sermon. I don't have the stats in front of me about like how many vacation days, we leave on the table and all of these other, I mean, how many of us have our work emails on our phones that we check, like at 6:30 when we get up and 9:30, before we go to bed, and, on Saturdays and on Sundays, and all these things that we have in some ways enslaved ourselves.
Right.
That is not like beyond what we do. And so part of the Sabbath practicing is the unslaving of our own self.
Exactly. Yeah.
That we're not being forced upon us.
Yeah.
So you're not saying you have to take Friday sundown to Saturday sundown, which would have been the traditional Sabbath, but to find some rhythm in your world on a weekly basis that you step out of that productivity doing mode.
Yeah.
And to set that time aside just to be.
Yeah. Right. And if that sounds impossible to you, like start small. Maybe it's like 4, 6, 8 hours to start rather than 24. And don't make it like the 4 hours that you're asleep or the 8 hours you're asleep. But to take maybe a half a day out of your day that like it's opposite day. Where all the things you say yes to during the week because of life, you can say no to. So the work emails.
Yeah.
Or just, those obligations of I have to be doing things. And all the things that you say no to during the week that would give you life, like you can say yes to those during that time, on that day.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like opposite day.
Okay. Yeah. And I think that there is I remember, so Peter and I, we worked together at First Methodist Church for several years. And like we had a Sabbath day. That we were allowed to take once a month, a work day that we were allowed to take off and to go do something that just rejuvenated our spirit. I don't remember if that was Wade's exact words, but like, you want to know how many days I took in my 4.5 years there?
Aaron, tell me.
2 days. 2 days. Now, I didn't know about it for the first 6 months. So that's to be fair.
Told you.
Nobody told me because nobody did it. And then even though like I thought, oh, this is a great gift, I still didn't take, again, this gift that my employer was trying to provide. And like I went and played golf. I mean, like it was something that was life-giving to me. But yet, again, it's just such a hard rhythm. It is so anti to the way that I live, we live collectively. So to be able to say yes to the life-giving things, and no to the other things.
Yes. Yeah. And so, I think throughout, Jesus does a lot of stuff on Sabbath throughout the gospel stories. One thing he does not say anywhere in the New Testament is like what we should do on the Sabbath.
Okay.
Which I think it's really compelling. So it's kind of like choose your own adventure.
Okay.
Like he's not telling us what to do.
Yeah.
This gives us a lot of freedom to, I think, pursue life with a capital L. like the abundant life that Jesus brought.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of ways that our work throughout the week, like, drains life from us.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
we're not slaves to that. Certainly it's good to work. And some of us have jobs that feel really fulfilling and satisfying and utilize our gifts, but that's not the experience of every person. And even if we do really love our job, that doesn't mean we should be doing it 24/7.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and there's numerous studies that have come out that, you need breaks and you need sleep. And I mean, you know, that we are, I just finished the Ruthless Elimination of Hurry. And in there, like John Mark Comer talks about, like, productivity after like 55 hours or something like that. You know, you don't get any more productive after, you don't get any more done after 55 hours, essentially.
The people that understand Sabbath the best inherently are high performance athletes. They know you cannot train 7 days a week.
Yeah.
One day out of every 7, your body just needs to recuperate.
Yeah. I remember, like, cause Kobe Bryant, like he highly valued sleep. Like I mean, you know, did all the study and I'm like, I have to get to bed, you know, I have to sleep. I have to do these things. And I do think this idea of, again, this idea of rest is just we're just so backwards in it.
Yeah.
And it's just, and it feels like, I don't know how to, I want to change the culture, right? But I have a hard enough time changing myself. So, you know, like, makes me think, okay, no way, just what can I do? Because I can't change out there, right? I can't change what just seems like an overwhelming amount of news stories that is just going on of like, wait, am I supposed to pay attention to that, and that? And to be like, wait, I really can't pay attention to that because I'm not even paying attention to this. You know? So kind of this, it's just a different rhythm. So I like this kind of idea. If you want to start kind of the prayer of examine at night, set your phone reminder or something, ask those questions, find a weekly rhythm of Sabbath. And then what I would probably say then is to find a way to retreat, right? I mean, that's part of what this is. It's a retreat center. I don't know if that's a good word or not, but where it's like, okay, I have this normal rhythm, but then I need to change it, right? That there needs to be a different sort of pattern.
Yeah. I think I talked about like a retreat that might be just a silent retreat, or a retreat that might be a deep focused retreat. I feel like another one is to have a retreat where you're planning ahead and being really strategic and thinking about your next several steps or your next season of life. It might be some kind of planning retreat that is valuable.
Yeah.
And so you might even, like, if you're the kind of person that is like, all right, I'm going to plan out my whole year and I'm going to do these like 4 quarterly ones. Well, maybe you might sample one of those throughout your year. If you're doing like a quarterly getaway for 2 or 3 nights, where one of them is going to be just a silent, quiet, however God wants to meet with you, to surprise you. And one of them might be, you know, I need to do some planning and goal setting and thinking about what the next stage of my life is.
Yeah. Well, and probably because, like, you know, I remember, because again, I'm a noise person. And so one of the things I've learned is like where I have resistance is often where I need to work, right? And so I remember when I was working through my doctor of ministry program, you know, we went to the Abbey of Gethsemane, and while I was there, we were going to spend like, it may have been like 6 hours in a silent retreat there. Nothing like, I'm better now. Like I could, you know, the 6 hours doesn't like, now a day of silent retreat, that is like, heck no, I cannot do that. But I remember thinking, how am I going to make the 6 hours of like, and it was fine and I was good. But like,
You survived.
I survived. Yeah. But often you know, those things that feel like resistance, like I've learned to kind of check into my own spirit of like, what is going on? And so it's like, okay, maybe for people who are watching this, like, where have you felt like, oh, I couldn't do that? That may be exactly what you need to do. Now, maybe you can't jump into that day one. Maybe you have to take some baby steps. Or maybe it's like, no, just try a day of silence. Come up here and, you know, put your phone on the front porch and, you know, leave it. I mean, you know, and not check it for their whole day.
Yeah.
Just be quiet and don't talk to anybody.
Yeah.
So,
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah. Imagine how God might just show up.
Yeah. Yeah. And he will. I think that is, and I mean, I think about the rhythms that we've had over our lifetime, and just the availability of noise that we have. And even wonderful noise, right? Like we can listen to any song we want at any point in time in the world, right? But just we're losing that silence. I can't even take a walk very often without listening to something.
Yeah.
And so, but that's a privilege of the last 40 years of life.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
How do we do that differently? All right. So you're a Tulsa boy.
Mm-hmm.
Grew up. Were you born here?
I was born in Tulsa. I lived in Sand Springs, about 10 minutes west of here.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, when did you, so what were some of those like formative childhood, teenage experiences? When did you encounter God? What is that? What do you remember?
When did I encounter God?
When do you first remember? What are some of those early things?
My parents loved the church.
Okay.
They've been connected to the same church for close to 50 years now. And so they got involved before I was born. And so every Sunday, every Wednesday, we were there as a family. And I was probably 5 years old in Vacation Bible School when the Vacation Bible School teacher asked me if I wanted to invite Jesus into my heart. And I was like, absolutely. Yeah, count me in. And yeah, so church was my life. And I remember at youth group, I was a youth group junkie. I did all of the things that youth groups did in the 90s. And so, yeah, Sundays, I would just be at church all day long from doing, there's basketball practice, and then there's drama team, and then there's choir, and then there's, the Sunday night activity. I was there all. And summer was kind of the same thing, and this mission trip, and then this leadership camp, and then this discipleship.
Yeah.
And another mission trip. I just crammed my whole summer full of things.
So what was, looking back, right? Looking back, and there are numerous things in there's multiple books that I've read, fictional and non-fictional, about sort of how 90s, I'm going to use the word 90s broadly, of like youth culture, like good, bad, awful, wonderful.
Yeah.
So for you, what were some of the like peak, like looking back, like I'm going to probably two things. Like one, what were some of those peak things that are just like, that nailed it for me?
Yeah.
And I want my kids to experience the same thing. Something similar. I want them to get the same kind of, this taught me something. And then what were some of those like valleys that were like, oh, that was not as good?
Yeah. Well, that's a hard thing, I think, to answer, because I feel like that whole world and whole culture doesn't exist anymore the same way. So my kids can't experience it in the same way. It's something I think about, because I remember the summer between 6th and 7th grade I went on a retreat camp. And it formed this really tight-knit group of friends, and our junior high youth pastor led it. And that was part of, I feel like, what hooked me. Of like, this is my place. These are where I belong.
Yeah.
And my unit, so my son now is just finished 6th grade, and it's that age, and I'm like, what's going to happen? And how is God going to encounter him?
Yeah.
Okay. But yeah, that whole world doesn't exist in the same way.
Yeah.
So, but I look back on that time and remember that, like, people taught me that having a relationship with Jesus was really important, and that reading the Bible was really important, and cross-cultural mission trips were important. And I think all those were really good things.
Yeah.
And I do really hope those for my kids.
Okay.
And I trust that God will encounter them in good ways and all of that.
Yeah.
One thing that nobody said out loud that I definitely picked up in that season, though, is that you showed Jesus you love him by being busy at church all the time. And I carried that with me for a really, really long time.
Okay. Yeah.
So I hope my kids don't pick that up.
Yeah. You showed Jesus you love him by being busy at church all the time. And in different moments, and I guess since we're recording this, it'll be more public, but, I do think the church can suck. Like it sucks us out of our families, out of our homes. It sucks us out of our neighborhoods into a different place. It sucks us out of other things. And so it can be that. And so it's kind of finding this right rhythm of gathering and scattering. But I think that in a world in which I think Christians are afraid, and I think Christians are afraid in every generation I've seen, or at least that I've lived, in the 80s, 90s, 2000s, 2010, 2020s. I mean, we're living more and more as we get older, right? Like in the fear of them, whoever we define them as, like, oh, okay, let's just let's get close to each other instead of finding this. You use the word cross-cultural mission trips, right? That how do I learn and be amongst other people, and see what God's doing there, right? Not what do I have to offer them, but what God, how are you at work somewhere else? Is pretty enlightening. So those things, this busyness, this Christian busyness, as an unspoken, it's like an unwritten rule in baseball, right? Are there any other unwritten kind of things? I mean, just
I'm sure millions of them.
Yeah.
I mean, but this idea of being busy at church all the time is completely counter to any sense of mission or evangelism. I'm busy with church things all the time. I'm not accessible and available to my neighbors in my neighborhood.
Yeah.
Where there's, the earliest mandate in scripture is love your neighbor.
And how many of us know our neighbors, right? Like actually know their names, know their stories, know what's going on with them. So high school, super involved, middle school, high school, super involved church, doing all the church thing. And then in good Christian Tulsa fashion.
So of course I went to Oral Roberts University. So I do youth group every day. I'd go on mission trips for the summer. Met a girl and got married, and then moved to Seattle and swore I would never come back to Oklahoma again.
Why not?
I was 22 and I thought I knew everything. And was ready to see the world.
Okay. Why Seattle?
That is a great question. I don't know. It wasn't Oklahoma. I really didn't know how much it was not Oklahoma until I got there. But it was culture shock in a great many ways.
So you're 22, just graduated, go to Seattle, newly married. So what Seattle chapter, how would you define Seattle chapter of Peter White's life?
That was a really difficult season. Good life experience in a lot of ways, but extremely hard to move to a new place where you don't know anybody. And you've got a new marriage. So we were there for about 2 years. And it, the .com bubble had just burst up there, so there were no jobs. And I had an English degree from ORU and didn't know anybody. So job hunting was something that was really difficult. So after 2 years, we decided to move across the country to Northern Virginia, where her family lived, and try to get ourselves back on our feet and save money and figure out what we wanted to do next. And then she decided she didn't want to be married anymore. And so that was just kind of an unraveling of a lot of things. And trying to figure out what I wanted to do with my life. And out of that, decided to move to Kentucky and start seminary and really kind of start my life over again and figure out what I was going to do.
So you've lived coast to coast. What is, and you're going through all this turmoil. And is there anything that is just kind of grounding you? Do you just feel like you're kind of floating? Because you have all these, you have a billion Bible studies that you've done over time. All this sort of stuff. So what is the spiritual life like for you in this? Were you prepared? Were you unprepared? What was that like for you?
There was a sense that kind of two that almost feel like opposite things when I say them out loud. But one is that I'd had such a good church experience growing up. I didn't feel like I could throw the baby out with the bathwater.
Okay.
But at the same time, my life experience did not square with the youth group faith that I have. and knew there had to be something else and something more, but I didn't know what it was.
Okay. Yeah.
And the questions I was having in life, like, just didn't fit the bandwidth of my easier faith.
Okay.
That
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah.
blew everything up for me. But yeah, remembering that, like, but there's, like, those were really good people that raised me,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
involved in my life, and like it can't be all bad, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, so it was a season of searching for sure, and that was what led me to the Abbey of Gethsemane, and that just kind of opened up this whole new world. I'd actually, like, wandered into this house church that I had found, made a connection with when I lived in Kentucky, and they used a Catholic prayer book for the rhythm of their meetings, and I didn't know how to pray anymore, and that had just been broken in me.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And so to find this book that was, I mean, so it was the Psalms, like, is kind of the bulk of that prayer book. I was like, oh, well, that's God's word. Like, I can trust that. And
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Psalms are poetry. Those are beautiful words about God and rich theology. And then there's this structure to it. I don't have to make it up. I just kind of have to open the book and close it, and that's enough. I
Yeah.
have to, like, try to, like, conjure these emotions for it to count, or I don't have to get up at 5 a.m. and do it for 3 hours for it to count. It's like, this is enough, and it's simple, and I'm joining people all over the world and through time in this rhythm. And so the guy that led that communion took me to the Abbey of Gethsemane, and I thought, I've grown up in church my whole life. Nobody's told me about stuff like this. All this contemplative stuff of these practices like the daily office and centering prayer and Lectio Divina and spiritual direction. I thought, this is like oxygen to my soul. Like, I could do this. And so that kind of is what, like, started the trail that leads us here.
Yeah. So really kind of, it's the unraveling, but you still have the ravels. I don't know. The threads.
So loose threads.
Because I think, is it unraveling and raveling mean the same thing? I think so.
Right, yeah.
And so you still have these threads of this faith that you grew up with, and the people, particularly the people who loved you, cared for you, and helped, to do this. And so you have these threads, and then in Kentucky, you get these new sort of, contemplative spirituality threads, for lack of a better word, that are now beginning to weave into your life, right?
Yeah.
And so you go through seminary, then you come back to Tulsa.
Yeah, which was not ever the plan, but lo and behold, it's what happened. It's the door that opened.
Yeah, and you get married, but obviously that's a big part of life as well. And so you come back to Tulsa, ministry job, and so what does it feel like to have, again, you internally have kind of I'm thinking, weaved, this sort of, I'm going to use the word classic evangelical faith, with this contemplative spirituality. You've kind of weaved it together in your own life.
Yeah.
And then you come to a church setting, and you're trying to, what's that like when you're trying to weave these things that don't always go well, that don't always go as naturally together?
Yeah. It's hard. Really hard. Yeah, and in a lot of ways, it felt like banging my head against the wall, or feeling like a square peg in a round hole.
Yeah.
It was just kind of a season of, well, I told a lot of people, it felt like following breadcrumbs is what eventually led us here to this neighborhood and doing this kind of work.
Yeah.
But it took us getting to Tulsa in the first place, and ministry in a particular setting for 7 years. Over that 7 years was just kind of like questions bubbling up over time. Yeah, but at a time.
Yeah. So and again, I know some of the story, but so after 7 years, transitioned out, and it seems like there was this period before you came here that, like, what was that period? Were you afraid? Were you hopeful? Were you, where did you sense God at work? Where did you feel isolated? Yeah.
I had found this training in spiritual direction and did it. And in doing that, well, to go back, so my role at the church was college ministry. That's what I was hired to do. And so in discovering spiritual direction, I realized, well, this is already my favorite thing that I do in college ministry is having coffee with students and asking them questions and just making space to hear their stories. And I remember thinking, I would love to do this in like a more formal way rather than like this sneaky way of, hey, you want to have coffee?
Yeah.
Oh, like, yeah, let's do spiritual direction. But I had no idea how to get there from where I was at, where there really wasn't an imagination or a vocabulary for this kind of thing. And so I just kind of sat with it for a while.
Yep.
And so when that relationship with that church ended, I had been trying for actually several years to find anything else I could do, and nothing opened up at all.
Yep.
And so it was almost an act of desperation of like, I guess I'm going to do this. And so created a website. I call it the Sabbath Life. I wrote a couple blog posts about this is what spiritual direction is. I sent it to all of my pastor friends saying, this is what I do now. How could I help you or help your church?
Yeah.
And so just really embrace that vocation and identity of like, I'm a spiritual director.
Okay.
And that's what I do. And so a couple of job offers came up through that to me, I thought, yeah, that's spiritual direction. Whatever they call it, was on the job description or the title. Like, I know it's doing spiritual direction.
Yeah.
So it was,
yeah,
overseeing a prayer ministry at a food bank. That was great practice for spiritual direction because I couldn't problem solve those people that brought prayer requests in. And then I worked with a campus ministry for a season. And then a car dealership called me out of the blue asking about if I'd be interested in being a corporate chaplain. And I thought, well, yeah, that's just spiritual direction, walking through the office, through the shop, and just, asking people how they're doing.
Yeah.
And being attentive to what's going on in their life. So all those things were going on while I was like building up a practice of spiritual direction and finding people that wanted to do that work.
Okay. Yeah. And so the corporate chaplaincy, that's a fascinating thing.
Mm-hmm.
So this was a car dealership. Mm-hmm. So you've got everything from mechanics to people who are selling cars to the professionals running the business. Mm-hmm. Just in their normal everyday life. And you would just come by and how did you start the conversation with people?
Oh gosh. I'm an introvert, and so getting started was really, really hard.
Okay.
Small talk is really painful for me. So having to learn 250 people, that was a real shaking me out of my comfort zone.
Yeah.
Just like, okay, Lord, this is what we're gonna do.
Yeah.
But probably at least half of the staff were under 25. And so I had lots of experience with
college ministry.
Yeah, college ministry and young people. And so just asking them about their life and, have you seen any good movies lately? Or, I knew they were dating. And so how's that going for them? Or they just had a kid. Talk about that. And so just, being able to learn their regular life. And as they saw that I was, somebody trustworthy and I cared about them, then they would kind of slowly open up.
Yeah. Yeah.
And some of them, we absolutely thrilled. There was a pastor on staff, and they'd invite me to come to their church, and they'd want me to pray with them. And then other people had no faith background whatsoever, had no idea why the business was paying a chaplain. But when I'd come by, they'd dump all their girlfriend problems. Time I walked by, and so, that was a lot of really good stuff that came in that season.
So, if somebody is, in a workplace where there's people who are faith background, non-faith background, simply just being present, asking questions and being consistent.
Yeah.
That was just, and then people would just open up. Yeah. There's no magic question. I'm sure there's questions that are better than others. Yeah. But it's just that presence.
Yeah. It's a presence that communicates, I sincerely care about you.
Yeah.
And that is, unfortunately, really lacking in the world.
So let me ask kind of a weird question.
Okay.
Okay. I hire you to be my corporate chaplain. I run something.
Uh-huh.
how do I, let's say somebody confesses to you they did something immoral or illegal.
Yeah.
Are you required to tell me? What was that relationship like? So if somebody said, well, I just stole from the company, right? Would you have to tell me? Or was there like this like understanding of like, this is a separate thing?
Yeah. I don't think that was ever articulated.
Yeah.
I think I think the boss kind of understood that, like, if that came out, yeah, it'd be gone. And I think a lot of people, they knew I was hired by the boss, and so there was always this kind of like little bit of distance of like, so you can tell the boss what I tell him. So there'd be some work on my part to say that no, actually, what we talk about is confidential.
Yeah.
I mean, within the limits of we're Oklahoma's self-reporting.
Yep.
And so, but yeah, there was some of that of just trying to navigate trust.
Yeah.
And what's appropriate and what's not appropriate.
Yeah. I just sort of wondered, because I do think I would love for there to be more kind of like corporate chaplains, right? Like I would wish that all of us who have some sort of level of like senior leadership would be like, like just like you need a pastor, you need a spiritual director, you need somebody to just care for you.
Yeah.
I want to implement that from the top down, but I don't, but then you run into this kind of conflict of interest kind of stuff that I would imagine. And what people need is that just, wait, you can tell me this and it's okay, right? Like I'm not here to report you.
I would tell people in our new hire orientation that we did every month that my role as a chaplain was to just help them be the best human being they could be, whatever that looked like for them. I'd be happy to meet them there. And so like in this issue of like this hypothetical of stealing from the company, I'd want to ask questions about like, do you want to be a person of integrity?
Okay.
Like because that's how you be a whole healthy human being.
Yeah. Okay.
Not by stealing from the company.
Yeah.
I would ask them, or the boss would actually ask in orientation, like who here has like worked at a job that had a chaplain? And the only people that ever raised their hands were military people.
Okay.
And I would kind of jokingly say, I worked for a church and we didn't have a chaplain.
Well, and again, I think, and obviously, I mean, we joke about that, but the truth is, for people in ministry, who is your pastor?
Right.
Who is the one who's caring? I mean, I remember in our former world of United Methodist Church, we had a district superintendent who oversaw 40, 50, 60 churches and that number of pastors. And they would say, well, I want to be your pastor, and you can tell me, like you would tell a pastor.
Yeah.
And of course, I really only had my dad as a pastor for so much of my life. So it's like, well, I don't know what I'm going to tell my dad.
Yeah.
One. Two, you're the one that decides literally where I live and what job I have. I am not going to tell you. There are things in my life that I will never, ever, ever tell you. But I mean, that was what was going on in my head. What I said to them was, oh, thank you so much. If I have something, I'll let you know. And yet, but I think we, as pastors or helpers or leaders, we all need that place, people, to be able to say like, no, this is really what I'm wrestling with. We need that.
Yeah. I mean, for those of us that went to seminary, maybe we got a class or a professor that talked to us about self-care and how to take care of our souls in the midst of ministry.
Yeah.
But think about how many people that work on staff at a church that haven't had that experience. I mean, most people doing youth ministry and children's ministry and music ministry, like, haven't been modeled or taught or mentored. This is how you take care of your soul and do this for the long haul, rather than burn yourself out in 3 years and never want to be a part of a church again.
Yeah. Or your kids never want to be a part of the church again, or something like that. Yeah. No, and I think that's a really great point because I did have some of these things. I mean, Asbury did a good job, I thought, of training us on some of these things. I mean, I remember somebody at Asbury saying, if you don't learn how to take Sabbath now, you're only going to get busier in your life. And I thought, oh, I'm so busy, oh my gosh.
Right. As a seminary student, I'm busy.
And then it's like, and now it's like, oh, they were so right. Like, I was busy then, but I learned to take I would stop doing homework from Saturday night, 6 o'clock or so, eat dinner, and then I wouldn't do homework again that 24-hour period, and that was my time of which to just do whatever else, but I'd set aside that time. But yeah, I got that training that other people that work at the church I do or other places, they don't get that training.
No. Yeah. And who else is going to show them?
And if they're working for God and for the pastor or whoever it is, I mean,
The volunteers have opinions, and the parents have opinions, and the other people sitting in the pews have opinions, and the supervisor has an opinion, and the lead pastor has an opinion.
yeah. So all right. I have a lot of questions, but let's go back to the corporate chaplaincy thing.
Yeah.
What did you see in people that surprised you? What did you notice that you weren't expecting to see?
I was probably surprised by both the people that were really open to me and the people that were resistant.
Okay.
I'd probably flip those in my head of who I thought would connect and who wouldn't.
Okay.
Yeah. And so it was disappointing in some ways, but also like happily surprising in other ways. Or like, oh, that person like read that email I sent and I got something out of it. I'm like, I don't even know their name.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think maybe not surprising, but something that was really ingrained in me was the power of learning people's names.
Okay.
Like, so if I was part of new hire orientation every month that we did, and so I would make it an effort to like try to capture people's names in my notebook when they went around and introduced themselves, and then try the next day to see them in their department wherever they worked and call them by name. Especially the younger guys, they would just like light up like, how do you know my name? I'm like, I was in orientation with you yesterday. Like, great. You remember my name? That's right. But yeah, for a lot of them, that was really meaningful.
Okay. Yeah. And it makes sense. I mean, just as I hadn't thought of it in that way before, but like in a world in which there's such a transactional nature, right? Like, okay, you're the mechanic or you're the salesman or you're the saleswoman or whatever it is, right? No. You're Steve or you're Sally or you're whatever the name would be. Like, that kind of breaks through this in a workplace culture of like, you are what you do, especially, right? That transactional nature. And all of a sudden it's a kind of a transformative, like, no, you see me.
Yeah.
And I can trust you because you see me, you remember my name. I mean, that makes sense to me thinking about it.
Yeah. I am struck by another surprise. I'm just remembering like some of the people on staff that have, if you can imagine who at a car dealership has the worst reputation among the staff, it was the young guys who were, their part-time thing outside was they were a part-time intern at a church. And just not showing up on time or not doing what they were told, or like, yeah, it was like pretty clear, oh, they're not going to last.
Interesting.
Yeah. Which is a sad thing.
That is a sad thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, that would be, I mean, yeah, because I want to think, I mean, as a person of faith, that we bring our best selves everywhere we go. But like, did these people feel like it was beneath them or whatever it was that was like, this is it. Interesting. So yeah, and then from the corporate chaplaincy, then this dream here, like,
yeah, so,
and Tulsa. I mean, if I would say what's something important to Peter, I would say Tulsa is important to Peter, which again is interesting from your journey that you've had. So yeah, how does this? So then move us here.
Okay, so we had moved to this neighborhood 8 years ago, and
why'd you move here?
It was that following breadcrumbs.
Okay.
I'd been doing ministry at a downtown church, for young people. And noticing there were a lot of young people downtown that were never going to walk into our church, no matter what bells and whistles we did, and trying to think about like, well, how do we do ministry and connect with our neighbors that are literally right here?
Yep.
And so, yeah, I was just asking a lot of questions about that and pursued church planting for a little bit, and that never materialized. But as we were thinking about moving, we made some connections in this neighborhood, and a house opened up that was for rent. And so we sold our house in Midtown to rent this house that's across the street from here. And through that, started to meet our neighbors, and we were attending this Methodist church that's behind us here for a season, and then there was a house church that met down the road too, and those felt like two halves of a whole. It was just a weird dynamic, but like we really wanted to be with people in our neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
There was a family living in this house, and they were it was right before the pandemic. They started building a new house right next door on an empty lot, and so at one point I asked them one day, like, what are you going to do with your old house when you move out? And they're like, no, we don't know. Do you have any good ideas? And I had connected with a couple of people around the country doing very similar kind of retreat urban ministries. And the pandemic was underway at that point. And I was doing spiritual direction for a bunch of pastors that were just exhausted and fried in that season. Everybody at the car dealership was totally stressed out for some similar reasons, some different reasons, but just witnessing, having this front row seat to like really everybody in and out of the church. Like none of us were given good skills of how to process these huge feelings we're all feeling, and in many ways still feel. And thinking these old monastic things of silence and solitude and stillness do a lot of the heavy lifting of for us. And we need, especially right now, we need those spaces for people. So made that as a pitch to my neighbors, and had really connected with this couple in Indianapolis to do something similar. And they gave me lots of ideas for a business plan and something I could present to the neighbors. And so the neighbors said, well, that sounds brilliant. When do you want us to move out? And I'm like, are you for real? Like, we could do this with your house?
Yeah, right.
So it was 4 years ago, April of 21, that we moved in and took over. So it's been 4 years. And so, learned a lot in those 4 years, and I've created a nonprofit that allows people to donate and financially support us. And that's been a big change and big help. Started the School of Spiritual Direction 3 years ago, that now we've graduated. 20 people have gone through that program. Just seeing God do some great things, and seeing guests come from all over the country. We had one from Canada.
Well, and you mentioned a guy from England.
Yeah.
So some might be coming to Tulsa, and they're looking for a place. But others are,
others are just. We had a guest just this last weekend. She was from Oklahoma City, and she told me she found us through ChatGPT. She'd been Googling for a retreat and wasn't finding anything, so told ChatGPT she wanted a place where she could sit on the porch in the rain and be dry, and somehow we came up. So that was a new one.
That was a new one. Yeah.
But there's a story in 1 Kings of Elijah where he's had this really big victory over the prophets in Baal. But then the queen puts a price on his head, and he freaks out. And so he just runs away, and he goes to the desert, and he tells God, I want to die, and I'm done. And God makes him go to sleep, and then God provides him a meal. And then God gives him a new mission and tells him that he's not alone. And so you should never underestimate the power of a good nap and a good snack when you're tired and want to quit.
Amen.
I think there's a picture of retreat and Elijah there of like, there are a lot of people in ministry that right now that feel like they're done and they can't go another day. And they just need a place to get away with God and have God restore their soul.
Okay.
And we've hosted a lot of people like that. Some of them are in crisis. We've hosted a couple people who their marriages have just fallen apart, and they're trying to figure out what to do next, and how do I keep my ministry job while my marriage falls apart, or how do I find a safe place to live for my kids in the meantime. There's another story though of Jesus in the New Testament where it talks about that he frequently went away to quiet places to pray. And I find it curious that in the gospel stories we never see Jesus in a hurry. We never see Jesus busy. We never see him frantic or exhausted or stressed out. And so I wonder if that comes from this regular rhythm that Jesus had. And so that story makes me think of my hospice chaplain friend who comes here every month. To have like a dedicated rhythm of getting away just to be with God. And to cultivate that love for God, for yourself.
and again, it makes so much thinking through the stories of the scripture, stories of Jesus, what I see in the world, and yet still I struggle to, schedule my next time with you. Even though I bought stuff, I still haven't scheduled it, which I feel all sorts of guilt now, but I'll get over myself and schedule it and we'll figure it out. But I do think of this posture and this way of being. I actually wrote about this. I posted it today, but my dad was a pastor, and so I remember the phone rang, and now this was back when phones were on the wall, like that's how old
I
we are.
remember those days.
Those are the good old days. And because my dad was a pastor and everybody at the church had our home phone number, he would eat dinner next to the phone because if the phone rang, it was inevitably for him. So he he answers the phone, and somebody is going to the emergency room, until they called the pastor. And I expected my dad to leave because that's what you do, emergency, go. What if they die? All these things that, especially as a kid, urgent, right? And so I remember my dad finishes the meal and goes and changes and is not in a hurry at all. And I remember asking him, and I don't remember, in what I wrote, I put a quote, but he knew that if he was rushed and hurried, he wouldn't be at his best for people. And when people are at their worst, they need somebody who's at their best.
Yeah.
And so I do think that for the helpers, we think we're helping and helping and helping and helping, and that to do something like this is selfish. There's this feeling of we're caring for our own soul is selfish. Right. And there's a huge difference between selfish and self-care.
Yeah.
And so it seems like, you seeing this need.
Yeah.
I got all these people in the regular working world, right? And then all of these pastors and other, spiritual professionals. And it's we all need the same thing, right? Just a place to be where you're not having to do, where you can just receive, take a nap, get a snack, get a new mission, right? Whatever that might be. And so that is what the Abbey is all about. That's what Sabbath Life is all about.
Yeah.
So, all right. So just Google Sabbath Life or the Abbey.
Yeah, you can go to the sabbathlife.com.
Okay.
And that's where you can see all the various services that we have here, how you can make a booking to stay overnight. Yeah.
All that good stuff. And then you can sign up to be on the email list, and you send me an email.
Yeah. There's a contact button, but there also should be a little, thing that automatically pops up for you to sign up for our email that goes out once or twice a month.
Okay.
And that's a way to stay connected.
Good. All right. So I've got some just kind of rapid fire questions, top of your mind, somewhat random. I don't have my list in front of me, so I'm going to have to kind of make some of these up. Just try to remember. What is your favorite place to eat in Tulsa?
Oh man, my favorite place to eat in Tulsa. Off the top of my head, McNally's.
Okay. Somebody is coming from out of town into Tulsa. They're staying here.
Yeah.
And you're like the concierge sort of person. What are some of the places you say, you got to go here, you got to go here, you got to go here?
Oof. Okay. Well, as kind of a history buff, we're just a couple blocks away from where the race massacre happened. And so the Greenwood Rising Museum is a great place to learn about Tulsa history.
Yep.
And what happened in that area. There's the Gathering Place, a premier park that's all free, and it's just 2 or 3 miles down the road. It's you should see that. There's also the river trail along the Arkansas River that goes through the Gathering Place as well. If you like minor league baseball, there's the Tulsa Drillers. We're the AA affiliate for the Los Angeles Dodgers. That's not far away. They also have FC's Tulsa soccer team also plays in that same stadium if you like soccer. If you like live music, there are multiple venues around. Kane's Ballroom is a really famous music venue if you like music. There's also the BOK Center where you see the big major acts. Yeah, just a mile down the road too.
Favorite concert or show or that kind of thing? Do you go to very many concerts or shows? Is that you?
Since I had kids. That put an interruption to things.
Yeah, we'll put an interruption thing. Who is an artist that you are listening to that other people should listen to?
That I'm listening to now. Oh gosh. Everybody should know about Zach Winters, who's a local Tulsa musician, singer-songwriter. You can find his music on Apple Music and Spotify.
Zach Winters. Indeed. What is now this you should know, because so Peter and I, when we worked in the church together, he helped me with some of these questions that I'd ask people. Not quite every week, but what is your favorite word?
Favorite word?
This was your question that you gave to me.
That I give you?
Yes.
Oh man.
So is the next one.
Oof. I gotta come up with a word. I'll just say book, because books are my friends.
Books are your friends.
Yeah.
What is your favorite sound? Favorite sound?
I think my kids laughing.
Okay.
That's pretty fun.
Yeah. All right. I'm gonna give you 3 books, because I know you love books. 3 books, different categories. I don't care which categories. They just have to be 3 different categories that I should read.
That you should read. Okay, so I just read a new biography of Martin Luther King. It's simply called King by Jonathan Eig. I mean, it's pretty meaty. It's big.
Yeah.
And it takes a really humanizing look at Martin Luther King. Like he was a flawed human being, but who changed the world well. And so it's pretty interesting read. I think my favorite novel as a kid is A Wrinkle in Time.
Okay.
And I think it's still pretty timely.
Okay.
And worth reading again. I loved reading it to my kids a couple years ago. Okay, so that's a novel. It's a biography. Okay, since we're the Sabbath Life, like one of the really inspiring books for me is by the Jewish rabbi Abraham Heschel. It's simply called Sabbath. It's pretty short, only about 100 pages or so, but it's like pretty profound, deep wisdom about Sabbath that I did not learn growing up in church.
Okay. Yeah. Eugene Peterson book? Which one should somebody start with?
The Contemplative Pastor. Which I think is a tragic name for it, because it's not just for pastors.
Okay.
Like it's really for anybody that follows Jesus.
Yeah. What yeah, okay, you're a Seattle Mariners fan.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
First place today.
Oh, they are in first place today?
Yes.
Maybe not when this comes out.
Somebody has to win the AL West.
Favorite Mariner of all time?
Edgar Martinez.
Okay. So you've been a Mariner fan for a while.
For a little while. So I moved to Seattle from Tulsa in 2001.
Okay.
Which was the summer that they won 116 games.
Oh, man.
And so to move from Tulsa to a Major League Baseball city that was in the throes of winning every game they played was a pretty incredible experience.
Yeah.
And kind of hooked me on the Mariners.
Well, that makes sense. At least you didn't become a Seahawks fan. That would be terrible.
I think I come by it honestly, though, because I followed King Griffey from when Griffey was just starting out.
I mean,
I had a King Griffey shirt and poster on my wall.
Of course. Yeah. Griffey was just the coolest human being I could possibly imagine as a kid. So just what does cool look like? It's like King Griffey Jr., backwards hat, things I would never be, Yeah. All right. So a few more questions. Let's see here. Again, I normally have my list and that helps me out. What is something you wish you would have known 10 years ago?
Sure. I buy stock in an AI company. Which is I wouldn't advise. 10 years ago. 10 years ago, I thought I'm going to be okay. That I'm going to be okay.
That's good. Yeah. But it seems like there's this pressure, right? Different times in our lives, we have this pressure that rises up, and it's like, what in the world? And you've had that, it seems like multiple times in your life, and probably for all of us, it's multiple times where it's like there's this, you're going to get
get out of this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What is your favorite practice as a parent? Or one of your favorite practices as a parent?
I'd say there's a couple. We've gotten into the rhythm and routine of reading at bedtime, and that, like, our kids haven't grown out of that yet.
Awesome.
They're 11 and 12. So there's a chapter real book that we read all together, the four of us, and then we kind of break up. Then mom reads a book with Nora, and I read a little bit with Cohen from separate things that they themselves are interested in, just them. And so that's kind of like end of the day routine.
Awesome.
But we eat most of our meals together.
Okay.
That's a priority. It was really good.
Priority. Awesome. All right. When was the time recently when you felt most fully loved?
So I think, well, this is kind of top of mind. So our School of Spiritual Direction, our year 2 group finished last week. They were here on 2 days last week. And so that's always a really sweet time, because everybody has these mixed feelings of like, oh, I'm so excited, this is coming to an end. But like, oh my gosh, it's coming to an end. I'm not going to see all of you again. We end the last day with a time of them blessing one another.
Okay.
That is just a really, really sweet time.
That's awesome.
And then in the midst of that, they like shared cards with Jackie and I that they all written really kind things about, their experience over the last 2 years. That was really affirming. Really sweet.
Awesome. That's cool. Cool. All right. Well, that's all I got right now. So thank you, Peter, for your time. Thank you for providing this. And yeah, I will schedule something with you soon. I'm so thankful for Peter and for the ministry of the Sabbath Life and the Abbey of the Heights. I really hope that you find yourself there, and that you make some time to get away from the craziness and chaoticness of the world and just be still. And to do that right here in our city is just a great opportunity that we have as well. Next week, I'm excited because we're going to have Marquise Dennis of the Birthright Living Legacy. It's all about fatherhood. He's got an amazing story of his own, and then some just neat things that are happening for dads and for fathers here in the city of Tulsa. And we're going to share that with you next week.